Okay, hello guys. Thanks again for joining me, and thanks again for the new subscribers that have joined the channel over the last few days. There's quite a large influx of people coming through, and I appreciate your support and wanting to follow me and put up with my voice and listen to me the whole time and make really bad shoddy videos like my magic one I just did yesterday. Just looking back at it now, just playing it again, because I should actually really look at them in detail and close up and focus on what I'm really saying, because it just shows how tired I was yesterday. I was absolutely exhausted. That's why I didn't make a painting video yesterday. I was just so tired. I had to go to bed early, and I think that really, you can probably tell by listening to my magic video that I did make a couple of mistakes here and there in hindsight looking back, but it's all experience, and so next time for the next video hopefully it will get better. So, but yeah, if you pick up mistakes, please let me know. I think I did make a couple of mistakes in my wordings or things as the magic phase was progressing. So yeah, if you got any comments or feedback, please let me know, guys. Okay. One thing I did do last night was that I thought I'd treat myself, as it's my week off from uni and all that. So got some more Skaven painted. So I finished off 4 of these dudes. So that was a Packmaster. This is one of the Plague Sensor Bearer guys. It's quite a cool looking model. So I've got 3 of those now in my army, which is quite cool. Musician, didn't really do much to him. I think he was almost finished anyway. So got that guy done, and what else? I just wanted the like a halberdier. I'm going to use these as like these guys with the halberdiers and the spears and that kind of thing as my storm vermin, and the guys with the swords and shields will be just the clan rats. So yeah, so keeping to my promise for Justin, I contacted him yesterday and said, "Come on, man, we just got a game. I just can't handle this having to wait business kind of thing. Let's just get them base coated or whatever. Just get something on them, and then let's just do it." So we've set a date for next month on the 14th at my place here, and that's gonna get me to, or give me the impetus to finish off my terrain. I finished off the watchtower yesterday, flocked the base and all that, and you probably saw it in the video for the magic yesterday. And I'm going to do the barn house. I probably won't have time today to get my airbrush out and do that, but I'm going to get that all base coated and all that. I'm just putting some flat red. This is flat red, Vallejo flat red model color. One of the new subscribers wanted me to name all the paints that I'm using in my painting videos, so I'll try to do that for you. I'm just putting down some yellow. I'm just painting this Taurus, and I want to get the base colors down on him, so that's just, what's this called? Deep yellow from Vallejo model color. Okay. Someone asked about highlighting yellow the other day on one of our messenger groups. And yep, just add yellow. It's if you want that, if you definitely want that, old school look to them, definitely add yellow. So yeah, following on from our last progress, so I base coated this Taurus in flat red. Okay, gave it a couple of coats, then I gave it some thin washes of the flat red plus whole red plus violet. Okay, so mainly violet, it was mainly violet with a little bit of whole red and a little bit of red in there. Okay, that was the wash. I put that really lightly over the top of it. So obviously that's dried. I mean, that was a couple of days ago, so now I'm just going to try to highlight this guy and go over his red parts now. People ask about the brushes again. Thanks very much for asking. I will get back to some people about that, whether it's be on the Hero Hammer group or on my messenger. Yeah, like I said to people, you know, it might be really expensive for you to get these brushes wherever you are in the world if you're not in Japan. Which is weird because I know they've got factories, because I teach some of the guys from Pentel at my work. And I know they do have offices, like in India, they've got offices in Europe, I believe. Factories, I'm not sure, but you know, I know they've got offices in places, so it seems strange that you can't buy them at some kind of art supply shop or stationery kind of business that wouldn't carry them. I don't know. So yeah, I know the guys in Australia had to pay like $50 shipping from eBay to get them, which is just crazy. So maybe it might be an item that you know, I can put like some kind of web store online that people can buy them. I mean, that would probably be the easiest solution to this whole, you know, where to get these brushes problem. And then I'll just charge you the you know, like the flat rate for shipping internationally with small parcels, which I believe is, you know, depending where you are, it shouldn't be more than like $3 American or something, $4 American. Plus, you know, the packaging costs and all that kind of thing might be $5 American or something like that. All up. It shouldn't be that much money. You know, you're not paying $50 from eBay. No, that's crazy. You know, the brushes aren't worth that much. The brushes are quite cheap here. I don't know how much they cost on eBay, but they're not very expensive. That's why I'm using them, because, you know, as I said, I wanted a cheap alternative, and I don't want to throw away, you know, $25 brushes all the time. You know, like this is a $25 brush. Yeah, well, it's absolutely, you know, well, I won't say what I won't say what I think it is, but it's totally stuffed. Yeah, I mean, it's completely and absolutely stuffed. And that wasn't just through misuse. It was just, you know, now it's like a, you know, basing brush. It's like dry brushing. It's putting like different kinds of textured paint on bases and that kind of thing. But you know, that was a $25 brush when I bought it, and it was perfect when I bought it, and it's just worn out, and that's where they go. They go into some kind of graveyard of brushes that I store here. And I wanted to get away from doing that because it's really costly, because I paint a lot. For people who don't paint so much, you know, those kind of brushes maybe better for them. I don't know. Like, you know, I've tried washing them in the brush soap. I've tried everything, and they just don't hold their tip for, you know, that long, or, you know, for as long as I want them to. And maybe I'm just being way too rough with them. You know, Artis Opus is a fantastic producer of brushes. They are the best. I think they're better than the Winsor & Newtons, in my opinion. But you know, they're made in England. You are going to pay, you know, a premium price for them, but you know, you're going to get really good quality in the end. So I do have 3 Artis Opus brushes, brand new, in my paint rack up there. I can see in my brush rack, I should say, but on my painting rack, and haven't touched them since I got these. I have not touched them at all, and I've painted everything with them. I can do all my freehand, all my really, you know, intricate freehand with these, like the smaller brush of this, the size 0. This is the size 6, so I just use the 2 brushes to interchange from doing, you know, things like this. I can do all this dry brushing, and it's still, the tip is still good, you know. And yeah, now I sort of have resorted to just relying on these brushes. They're readily available. I can just go down the shop and, you know, like 2 minutes walk and get one. And I just pray and hope they do not ever stop making them, because I'll be devastated if that was the case. But if they do, then I'll find alternatives, because there are other brushes similar to this, not the same but similar, that they make in Japan for, you know, for model making, painting, and that kind of stuff. So there are other brands out there, but that I've seen anyway. I usually go to visit my favourite art supply shop, and they have a large range of brushes, including these, but they have another, range of various other brushes, like calligraphy brushes. This is what it is. It's a calligraphy brush. They do have other ones there as well, and I'm sort of tempted to try them at some stage. But for now, I'm really happy with these, and that's all I need. But yeah, if I was desperate and I couldn't get these, then I'd have to try something else, another alternative. And I also noticed in that Warhammer Magic video that I did, I can hear my son in the background, so I did it through the day. Just being me, like I'm in a rush to get things done. Yesterday was like my first day off in a long time, and I didn't get much done because I had like a bloody headache because of the low air pressure. So I had to deal with that all day, and I was trying to make this video, and I perhaps should have just left it until today, when my son was at school and everything was quiet, or late at night. So here we go. Maybe I'll make some more videos this week. Maybe not. Just depends how I feel, and because I want to also gauge how interested people are in them. If that people aren't watching them, then obviously I won't go to the time to produce them, because it's just there's no point in doing it. But yeah, for people who've never seen the sets, it may be interesting, or don't know how Magic works. It's just a really basic overview of how Magic's done. But join the Hero Hammer group, ask questions. It's the best place to go to get all your the answers that you need. A lot better than mine anyway, because I'm really a painter. I'm not really an expert in gaming or rules or that kind of thing. Certainly not strategy, as I've pointed out before many times. I'm not a strategist. That's why I tend to play armies that strategy is not really a big part of their game plan. It's like, run forward and engage as quickly as possible and throw as much stuff at them as you can to try to try to destroy them and claim victory at the end of the day. So have fun, basically, like the Orc and Goblin army, as Balder was talking about in the last video, that Rick Priestley wrote it, and to understand Rick Priestley is to understand the Orc and Goblin armies book, and that's how those guys rolled. They just rolled for fun, and I like that too. But I like all the other armies too. Like High Elves are totally different. They're really, I suppose they're like an Imperial Roman army. In comparison, they're very disciplined, and they're very static, and they don't have a lot of moving parts. They've just got a very stable sort of backbone of archers and spearmen and that kind of thing. They've got some nice characters, mounted characters and that kind of thing. And of course Magic plays a big part in their makeup, but it's all very defensive and it's not super offensive. So yeah, ideally I would like in the future just a little 1,500 points of each army. That'd be quite cool. That way I've got a range that I can take to the field, or play in campaigns, or let other people use them if they need to, or borrow some stuff if they need extra models or whatever, to complete definitely the 4th edition armies. 5th edition I'm not so keen on, but 4th edition I'm definitely all in for. So yeah, Diego messaged me before on the channel to say about about the painting video. About the Magic video, like which edition do I prefer, like 4th edition Magic or 5th edition Magic, because he was saying the 4th edition Magic had more chaos spells. That's true. Actually, the 5th Magic, I don't think, the 5th edition one didn't have any chaos spells. I think you got those in the chaos supplement. You got those spells in there, which now I do have, but they're in Australia. I've got that Magic set, the chaos set. So in answer to your question, Diego, which one do I like better? I do like the 4th edition better because it's got all those College of Magic spells, and that's why I got the 4th edition set again recently, is to include those spells in my games of 5th. But after my discussion with Baldur about the Warhammer Renaissance, I'm sort of quite keen to give that a spin at some point. I think Justin's pretty keen on doing it too, so that will use just the 4th edition Magic set for that. So I'm quite keen to give that a go. I think he's sort of refining the Magic rules now in the group. Some people giving him some feedback, and he's sort of, at the end of the day, it's his baby, like it's his creation, so he can choose to take on some suggestions or just say, no, not changing it, and you can change it yourself. I mean, we just got to play test it. Like I said to him, just got to play test it and see how we go and see what we think, and then just give our thoughts, maybe in a video, or on the podcast or something. That might be a good idea, and that way we can give our take on the game. But I'm quite generally interested in it, because normally when I see that the black and white, if I like open up a document and it's just all black and white text, that doesn't really get me going. Like that doesn't really excite me so much. But I thought I'll quickly go skim through the rules and see what it looks. Everything's pretty similar to what the rule book is anyway. Hasn't changed so much. Just that the army books have changed with points values, and they've added stuff like the dwarf army's got like the dwarf rangers that can skirmish, which is great because they weren't in the 4th edition set, even though the miniatures came out then, and they've been in since 3rd, but they just didn't include the rules for them. They didn't give them a unit, which is really weird. So they're in there, and they've got the 6th ed rules for the miners, so that they can tunnel and do effectively what they are supposed to be doing, because miners generally in the 4th edition are not so appealing. Maybe the points value is a bit cheaper if you were just to take a regular dwarf warrior with a double-handed weapon, because they're carrying like they're in light armor. They can't carry shields, I don't think. But yeah, like on paper, they're not like a unit that I would really want to take all the time, apart from maybe the Grudge of Drong campaign, because they're really an essential part of that campaign as a unit, especially in the first scenario anyway. Which reminds me, go and have a look on the Hero Armor group, because Davide, my mate from I'm going to say Italy, I hope that's right. It's not Spain, I think it's Italy. He posted up his first game of the Grudge of Drong, if I can say it correctly, if I can spit it out. And yeah, he's got it on his blog spot now, and you can go and read it, and it looks really cool. I read it yesterday, and it looks great. So looks like people are actually getting out and gaming with their friends again, which is awesome. That's why I'm sort of prodding and prompting old Justin to get his stuff painted. I can't wait much longer. So, but one of the guys wants to game on the first week of June. I'm not so sure whether I should go down to the store to do that. Even though we're coming out of our, a lot of the major cities are coming out of their restrictions now. So, which is positive to see, and people are sort of getting back into a regular routine now. So, for good or for bad, I don't know yet. We'll have to see. Like my city here is totally 100% clear. Like it's been like that for ages now. So, yeah, the quicker we can get back to normal, the better. And I suppose you guys want to hear more about my GW history. Maybe that's why some of you have tuned in. I'm sort of worried that when I get to the end of it, you probably won't want to listen to me anymore. But, okay, so last time, I got the job at the studio. And, yeah, very exciting time. you know, sat with some of the best painters on the planet, basically. And got to meet a lot of the studio staff. I got like a bit of a tour, and got to meet everybody there, which is great. And I lived, like my little unit that I was living in was like practically like I don't know, 1 minute walk, maybe not even that, from the studio in Nottingham. So I lived really close. Andy Chambers actually lived just down the road from me, so I spotted him and said hello to him walking to work one morning. He just lived down the road from me. And yeah, it's really weird, like, you know, Nottingham, and why it's like this hotbed of talent in regards to the miniature or wargaming industry. Like, there's just so many people who live there and work there, and yeah, it's just really weird how that's sort of worked out. You would have thought London would be like the epicenter of all these you know, major businesses working there, but maybe Nottingham's just an area where it's not too far out from the city and cheaper to produce stuff, or it's just got a history of casting and that kind of stuff. I'm not really sure, but or artisans or something like that. Maybe it's got a long history, like, you know, Stoke. Yeah, you know, it's called like the potteries because, you know, they deal with ceramics and have done for many generations and that kind of thing. Maybe Nottingham has got some kind of history to it too. But yeah, Nottingham's a nice city from what I could remember. That not being that much, but yeah, I remember it being a nice place. I think the studio was like right next to the Sherwood or Robin Hood's caves or something like that. Some kind of, you know, park or some kind of like heritage site, maybe, I think, from memory. Maybe someone else can remind me exactly what it was, but I think it was the caves of caves of Robin Hood or something like that, where he would hang out there with his you know, merry men. But yeah, so when you probably think that, you know, oh, you get a job at the studio and you can start painting all these character models, and think again, it wasn't like that at all. I actually started off just making movement trays. Funnily enough, they said, yeah, we need movement trays, we need, you know, Jervis Johnson wants all these guys to have, all the units to have like standard bearers and champions, and you need to convert all these models and paint them up for, and you're going to see Jervis and he'll tell you what he wants and all that kind of thing. So that's what I did. Went and saw Jervis upstairs because he and Andy Chambers were working together on stuff for 40k, I think, at that time, for the second edition. Maybe the Chaos, no, not Chaos. Was it Chaos? Yeah, Chaos Supplement. It would have been the Chaos Supplement for 40k at that time. And in the studio, like where we're working, in the painting studio, they're working on the Wood Elf book when I first got there, which, you know, I recounted with Dave Lister in our interview and the podcast as well, because I know he's a huge Wood Elf fan of that era. So yeah, got to see all those models painted by Torben. Torben's a Danish guy, lovely bloke, and awesome painter, like incredible stuff he used to do. And he painted up a lot of the miniatures, I think, for that range, but I think a lot of other guys did too. I think Dave Perry did some, and Paul Muller did some as well, but I think it was mainly those three guys who did that range there. I think the other guys were working on the Chaos stuff for 40k. Yeah, so it was really exciting to be part of, you know, seeing that created, you know, seeing that come together, seeing those guys paint stuff, and they had like a, you know, table in front of the studio manager, and they put all the models, all the completed models there. So every day you could have a look at the day's progress and see the units sort of get painted and start forming up together. And the whole army coming together really was quite exciting. And Mike McVeigh would come down, at the end of the day and have a look at what people have been doing, and maybe he would want to, give some comments on things from time to time. But you wouldn't see Mike very often. He'd always be upstairs in his own little studio, working on his own projects and stuff. But yeah, you would never really see him very often at all. I only met him once, really, and I just saw him a couple of times after that. He's a pretty shy guy too, so he's not really like a big talker. He didn't really say much. He obviously had his friends inside the studio that he would socialise with and that kind of thing. So yeah, they made a lot of movement trays, and then my responsibilities sort of got greater and greater. So then they started to give me all these standard bearers and musicians, and I think it was mainly champions and that kind of thing. They wanted me to. They had like a little storeroom, next to where we were painting, and in there was like all these buckets and buckets and buckets of miniatures. All lead miniatures that you could take out and use for conversions and that kind of thing. And if you needed something, you can order it from the foundry, and they'll just send it to you. I saw some really interesting stuff in there too, like an unreleased Orc Shaman from Kev Adams. I was so tempted just to stick it in my bag, and I think I did. I think I just took it because it was a tin. So it's one of those. It's like if I took it, they would never be able to make another version of it again. Like they could never make another mold from of that miniature, and I felt really bad about it, so I put it back. But I was really tempted to take it. I think guys generally did. They just took stuff and just put in their pocket from time to time. You were given stuff like every time there was like a new release for each month. You would get a little plastic bag of all the models in it. From the as like a little gifts kind of thing. And you weren't paid well. Like I was lucky. I got the same pay as when I was working as a red shirt in the store. Now there were guys like Torben who were paid less than me, which is disgusting when you think about it. But that's the way they did things, that was the pay, and if you wanted to do it, then that was it. You're going to do it for the love of it, basically, and don't expect to get rich painting at the studio, that's for sure. So that was probably the biggest setback. Like it was the lowest paying job. My manager told me that anyway. Like my old manager told me that, Richard, before I left, because he did it for a while too, and he said it's the lowest paying job in the whole company. So he said, think about that before you make a decision. I think he wanted me to get into like management and that kind of thing in the stores, but I was like, my heart was set on going to the studio. So I don't regret it at all. Like, it was like an awesome opportunity. And, I learnt a lot there. Like, even though you're not taught anything, no one actually sits next to you. It's like uni, like I'm doing uni now. No one actually sits next to you and say, oh, you got to do it this way. And, oh, that's wrong. And, try doing it this way and using this technique or something like that. There's nothing like that. Once you join the studio, it's like a given that you know how to paint and that you can do these tasks. And I guess if you're not going to cut it, then they'll probably tell you, and they can just ask you to leave, I guess. But but yeah, I could do everything, no problem. And then, you know, I enjoyed converting all the models for all the different units. A lot of those miniatures are actually featured in the Warhammer 5th edition Battles book. I will take some photos out of that and upload them, maybe in a special video later of, models that I have painted. And one of the guys on the Hero Hammer group had a picture of some lizardmen, which I had forgotten that I had painted, and some of those on that box cover are ones that I did too. So that was a bit of a spin out. Seeing those, I thought, oh shit, yeah, I painted those. There was a couple of there's a couple of guys who painted them. I think it was about 3 different guys who painted them, but it was like 3 different types. Like one was like a really light green, like almost like a goblin green sort of skin tone. I think I did that one, and a few other guys painted the other ones on there. But yeah, that was quite a spin out to see that. But yeah, so I did get to paint some of the Wood Elf guys, like a command group, and it just went terribly. I just really hated painting them, and sorry, Dave. But yeah, I just did not enjoy painting those models at all. And I do remember throwing one at the wall. I don't know why. I think I just got really frustrated and I just pegged it at the wall. I was just so pissed off with it. And that got a laugh out of one of the guys there. So yeah, and then the 5th edition box started coming out, and like, as in that, they were releasing details about it and saying these are the new armies, and then I was allowed to, paint some of the models for that new set. I didn't paint any of the Bretonnians, just did some of the Lizardmen, like the Saurus warriors, and I think that was it. I didn't do any of the Skinks, just did like a Metal Command. I did some Saurus warriors, and I did them like a couple of different skin tones. That's right, I did the plastic ones, and they were the ones featured on the box set cover of that plastic set of Saurus warriors that you could buy. And I did a metal unit in more of a darker colour scheme, and that was featured in the battle book. Again, I'll need to take photos and upload those at some point. And then what else happened? But, it was just good sitting there and just painting all day and just listening to music. They had like this big skylight. They'd get all this really nice natural light through. If I had a chance of building my own house again, I would put a skylight in my house. It's a really good idea. And, I met a lot of the other guys, like Nigel Stillman. Went to see him. Lovely guy. Most loveliest chap you'll ever meet. Highly eccentric. But just a really nice man. I had to go and see him about the Lizardmen because he was designing the Lizardmen book at the time. And I can't remember exactly why I needed to see him. Maybe just, I think one of the guys said, oh, go and talk to Nigel about, the Lizardmen, and he can give you some tips about their culture, or maybe get you inspired about, their theme, and learn more about their race and all this kind of thing, like the background story and that kind of stuff. So I went up there. Nigel had like a tiny little room that was partitioned off on the 2nd floor. And he'd be sort of huddled in there with his little computer and all these miniatures around him. He had, at that time, there were no Lizardmen models. This is like way before the models were actually produced and designed. So he proxied everything with all the different kinds of models you can imagine. He even made his own stuff out of like, out of blue tack or putty or something like that. Just for the game design purposes, he just designed all his own stuff, had it on his shelf, and he was showing me all these different units and all that kind of stuff, and very, very enthused about everything. He's the passion in that guy was just unbelievable. He was so into it. And then he said something like, "Oh, have you got a bits box?" Because I was talking about the models and how he made them and all that kind of thing. I said, "Oh, no, I don't have a bits box." He goes, "Oh, yeah, just give me a second." He just grabbed a box under his table and said, "Here, take this." And like all these miniatures in it, of all different kinds of stuff. And I thought, "Oh, cool, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Such a brilliant gift." No one's ever given me a whole box pile of miniatures before. Like, it's just, I couldn't believe it. So I took that, thanks to Nigel, and I actually brought that back to Australia in the end, because I didn't use all the models, obviously. And a lot of that came back with me to Australia, and I think I used some of it for various different projects. So thanks, Nigel, for all those models. It was awesome. Lots of different bits and pieces. But yeah, Nigel was like most of the guys at the studio, was hugely into historical games, and he sprawled out a big map on the floor for me and told him about some kind of World War II campaign they were playing and all this kind of thing. That he would play with the other studio members, after work and that kind of thing. He's probably more excited about that, in all honesty. They were hugely, like the Perrys, of course, as you know, like really into their history, and also Rick Priestley, and most of the guys were, I think, at that time. And that was kind of their little escape from work, maybe, because that's all they did, for the 9 hours or 10 hours they were at work, just focus on fantasy and whatever deadlines and projects they had to get completed. So yeah, historical gaming maybe was just a little break from that, and things that they sort of grew up with and that never left them. So what other stories were there? I got to play one of the guys because I bought a Dwarf Army from my manager at that time. All beautifully painted models from one of the studio. Dave Perry painted some of the models, so it was painted by one of the studio guys as well. And I gave one of the guys a game of 4th Ed in the studio. I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Thomas Purinen, but maybe it was Thomas. I can't remember. So I did meet Thomas. Thomas Purinen actually joined the studio around about the same time I did. And he was an awesome guy. I don't think he remembers me. I did give him some miniatures, I think, before I left. I'm not sure. I gave him some stuff that I had before I left to go back home to Australia. I gave him some stuff, I think, from memory. But yeah, lovely guy. And I don't know if it was him that I played. I'm not sure, but I didn't have all the models that I needed. So I said, is it possible for me to use some of the stuff in the cabinets, like the heavy metal ones? And he said, yeah, that's fine. So I was like, wow, that was like a dream come true, but I can't remember for the life of me what it was that I borrowed. It might have been a War Machine, because I don't think I had War Machines. I'm not exactly sure. It may have been a character model or something. I can't remember. It's sad, really. You think that something so big like that, I'll definitely remember it, but I can't. And to show what a bad gamer I was playing against a Chaos Army, and he had these demons of Khorne. They were the flesh hounds, aren't they? Flesh hounds of Khorne. And they carry that collar of Khorne, which means that you can't... Oh, that's what it was. I took a magic user. I can't remember which one it was, but that's what I did. I borrowed a magic user from the cabinet because I wanted to use magic. And I cast a spell on those demons. And of course, it got a few laughs out of the guys in the White Dwarf team, because they thought, oh, look, haha, check out this guy. He's definitely heavy metal painter. He doesn't know what he's doing, because he's just cast a spell on these demons that are completely immune to magic. I remember doing that, and then I remember Rick Priestley walking up And he said, "Oh, you playing the game Fantasy?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, how many points?" And I said, "I think it was about 2,000 points." And he goes, "Oh, big game then, eh?" And I didn't realise, 2,000 points was a big game, but maybe for Rick it was. It was a big game, and nowadays I much prefer playing 1,000 to 1,500 point games. So maybe 2,000 points is a big game actually. It is a big game in that it can take an entire afternoon to play it out. Whereas like 1,000 point, 1,500 point, you can get 2 or 3 games done in a day. As I later found out with the campaigns that we played, you can play really nice little small games in a really short amount of time. So it was cool to have Rick come down and have a look and check out what was happening. He seemed quite interested. Remember going to visit Andy Jones. He was like the head of the IP, and he sort of had control over the IP for the video games market and that kind of thing. He seemed like an interesting guy. He had his own little office there. I had all like the 3-ups models they used for the various board games and plastic models they used. He had a lot of 3-ups on his desk. I remember that. What else? Oh, John Wigley, of course, got his job there, and went to see John sometimes to say hello. I mentioned that he comes to Japan every now and again, so I've got to catch up with him someday and just see how he's going and shake his hand and say hello. Dave Perry, the guy that I was painting with in the studio, he's been living in Japan for like 10 years or something now. So I talked to him through Messenger. I haven't met up with him yet. But he's been living in Tokyo for a long time, probably more than 10 years. Because I think when I got here it was 10 years. So, geez, that must be like 15, 16, almost 17 years now. So he's practically like a full-time resident. I don't think he's going back to the UK. I'm not sure. Like he's working for some company here, and maybe, I think he's doing pretty well for himself. So, that was a big turnaround to see him here, working in business. I did not see Dave as a business-minded guy, but he went to uni and got his degree and changed his whole life around. So I think he had enough of the whole trying to make a career in the making miniatures or painting miniature business. So, but yeah, we got in touch here in Japan, just sort of like a bit of a sidetrack story, and he said, "Oh, I'm sort of interested in getting back into painting. Can you recommend some paints and all that kind of stuff?" So I initially tried to get him onto Vallejo, but he went with the Foundry paint system in the end, and he used to work for them anyway back in the day after he left Games Workshop. And now he's painting up some Saga miniatures now. He's really into historical stuff, and he sold all his entire collection, sadly. I think he had an Undead Army and Chaos stuff, and God knows what else. So that's all gone. I hope he got enough money. I hope he got good money for it though. So one day we'll catch up, because I think we'll talk about playing 3rd edition Fantasy at some stage, but I don't think that's going to happen. I sold him some dwarf miniatures and that kind of thing, but I think it's just way too much for him to take on, to paint up an entire army, especially for someone who's not been painting for a long time. And now he's sort of slowly getting back into painting these Saga miniatures, and he's enjoying it, and he's doing some really good work with them. So I think he's almost got a whole warband painted up now. So there are some old hammerers in Japan. There are people who like that old hammer era, and they're alive and well here in Japan. So it's quite cool to see. I thought there would never be anybody here. Honestly, I didn't think there'd be anybody into the older editions of Warhammer for sure. But yeah, sure enough, they're around. So I've met a few guys now. But for like, for my era, like this 90s stuff, there aren't many. But luckily I've got a few guys at the club that I game with that are entertaining me still with this foolish notion of playing all these old games. But it tends to swing between people who love 3rd edition Old Hammer and then 6th edition, and then the other edition, the 4th and 5th doesn't get sort of mentioned that much anymore. So hence the channel, hence the try to revival. I should call it Hero Hammer Revival or something. Maybe that's probably a better name for the podcast and everything. So Dave worked there, and a few other guys that I got to know. Paul Moller, of course. I think he's now got his own miniature company. I don't know what he's doing work-wise, whether that's his full-time gig or not. I don't know. But yeah. It was all good fun. And then that's right, when the studio, just before I left, the Abaddon miniature came out for the Chaos Army for 2nd edition. And I remember being really excited about that because, like, these are Jez Goodwin miniatures. This is like I think at that time it was like he sort of reached his peak, like in terms of like his skill level just jumped up, from like the 4th edition High Elves, seeing those models compared to like the 3rd Ed Wood Elves that he did and the other older High Elves. You could just see like there's a massive leap in skill progression that Jez was going through in the Chaos stuff that he did back in those days. It was really impressive too. So I'm just adding some yellow to this mix, and I've just got some beige here as well. I'm just adding into that. Using a smaller brush now to line in some highlights there in the muscle tones and that kind of thing. I haven't been sort of paying attention to the camera, so I hope everything's sort of, you can see everything and all that. Maybe you're not even watching, maybe you're just painting yourself, which is a good idea. But yeah, remember seeing that, distinctly remember the Abaddon miniature. I got one for myself because, we got one for free when it was released, and painting that, and that was my little jump in skill progression. I could tell that, without having actually being taught anything, you're painting every day, you're around all these great artists and that kind of stuff, and I think it just rubs off on you, and you sort of just, you just find this, this sort of like, you can see for yourself when you finish something, wow, that's something, that's a lot better than what I'd painted before, and I knew then it was sort of, my skills are sort of developing and sort of honing a little bit. And then, then after that I sort of did the Lizardman stuff before I left. And and then I went back home. So I think the main reason why I went back home, like in hindsight, I would now I can just say, I wish I'd stayed there until the end of 5th edition, and then left at 6th edition came out. I wish I left then, but I think the main reason why, I think I just got homesick, and I was excited to go back home. At that time, and I wanted to see my family again and that kind of thing. So again, putting into context, like this is the age before internet. If I had the internet, I'd have more of a support network. I just didn't have anybody there, and I was fairly young, and I hadn't lived away from home ever before. So, and I was sort of quite new to this idea of. And it's a different country. It's not Australia. It's the UK. Even though it's all an English-speaking country, it's still a bit alien to me in a lot of ways. And I hadn't eaten like a decent meal in God knows how long, like 18 months. I think about 1 or 2 decent meals, I think, the whole time. So I was looking pretty sickly, and I think my choice to go back, and I was smoking a lot too. I was smoking like 20 a day. I was being a bit of a silly boy, not looking after myself, just very unhealthy, and just sort of living off, the paint fumes basically. So I think going home was probably a good idea, and my parents were quite shocked at how I looked. I looked like a ghost. Pale, very, very pale skin, very skinny. So yeah, I got a lot more healthier and a lot better when I got home, I think. And but the people gave me like a really warm farewell, and they signed a huge card from everybody in the studio to wish me well. And one of the guys, now he was a graphic designer, I believe. I think he designed Space Hulk 3rd edition, but I can't remember his name. He's a really nice guy, and he said before, I'll make sure that the guys in Sydney, in Australia, I'll give you a good reference for you when you go back. And because at that time I was planning to go back into work in the Games Workshop stores when I got home, and he was going to give me a good reference, and he's a really good bloke. I just can't remember his name. I don't know if he was just a graphic designer for 3rd Ed or he designed 3rd edition. I'm not sure. So I think it might have been Richard Halliwell who designed it. I'm not sure. I don't know. So yeah, went back. As soon as I got back home, I contacted GW, and I got an interview to go to Sydney to meet with the area manager there and talk about getting a job, at GW in Australia. Also, just before I left the UK, I made a massive order. I put in like a huge order through to the foundry for like a massive box of miniatures. Like, it was huge. It had so much Chaos models in it. It was incredible. I was like really into Chaos then. So I had my heart set on getting a 40k Chaos army, a fantasy Chaos army. And I think it was all Chaos. I don't think it was anything else. I don't think there was any dwarves in it. I just had my heart set on that time, just Chaos. So I had this massive box. I don't know how many kgs it was. It was well over 15. And they said, okay, we'll send it to you in Australia, and then we'll charge you, we'll charge you the money when it gets delivered. And I said, okay. I have no idea how much it would cost. It would cost a fortune. And I say that because they never charged me, which is nice. I never got any bill. The postman just dropped it off, and that was it. That was a nice surprise. Yeah, a lot of free lead then. And then I got my interview in Sydney, so I left, took the flight down because I lived in the Gold Coast still. Took the flight down to Sydney, went to meet the area manager, who I actually previously met many years ago in Queensland, when they were advertising for people to work in their upcoming stores. This is before GW became a retail, on the side street kind of a store that you could walk into. Before that time came, they went around the different states to look for people to hire to work for them. So before I went to the UK, I had an interview with these guys, and it was the same guy, basically. And I didn't get that job initially. The first interview session I had, I didn't get a job, didn't get a reply or anything like that. So it was the same dude. He was the accountant at that time. He worked his way up into the regional manager or whatever it was, quite a high position. He wasn't a bad guy, but the dick that I mentioned about him before, the other Aussie, the the nutcase guy who was who visited the Oxford store, and he basically ran the place like a boot camp, like he was some kind of commissar type guy. He was there in the interview, and I think he instantly recognised me, and I instantly recognised him, and I knew then that this wasn't going to go down too well. And he basically said, this nutcase guy, he said, right, well, I want you to start tomorrow. And I said, well, I can't start tomorrow. I just got back, and I've got nowhere to live, and can't you just give me like a month or something to get things sorted out? And I'm really low on finances. I just got back. Oh no, I want someone to come. You got to be like a space marine and die for the Emperor, and I want you to start tomorrow. And if you're not going to start, then you might as well just go home. And I said, okay, well, I'll go home then. And that was it. That was the end of the interview, and a bit shell shocked after that. And but then I thought, screw them. I'm not going to work for these assholes. I just had enough of them then. And then that sort of left a bad taste in my mouth after that GW, I've got to admit. For them to allow people like that to work in the company, it's a bit strange, but that's the way they wanted to do it. So, and how they wanted to conduct themselves, and in the end I just told them to shove it. So I remember going back to the Sydney Central and going to their store there in the heart of Sydney, and buying a few orc blisters. I had some. That's where I got a lot of my orc boys that you see in my units. I got those from there. I bought about four or five packs of them. And teaching some guy how to paint a skeleton horseman or something, undead horseman. I remember that. And then going home. And that was it. That was the end of my GW days. Never to go back again. I wouldn't even go back there now, actually. Certainly not now. I mean, jeez. Just the thought of it, maybe it's different now. I don't know, but yeah. If you're okay with earning very, very little money, like I don't earn a lot of money now in the job I'm doing now, but I reckon GW would not be, sort of competing with wages, that's for sure. But you basically have to love your job so much that money's not really a huge concern for you. So, yeah, maybe other people have similar stories. I know Big Jim on Twitter, in his sort of origin stories of Games Workshop, had a very similar kind of story, being done over by some area manager. He was a manager at one of the stores, and when they decide, well, I think we're going to make a change here and we'll get someone out, they just get you out, They don't like the look of you or something or whatever, you're out, that's it. There's no warnings or anything like that, there's boom, gone. So they have got certainly those days, maybe now it's completely different, but those days had like a really bad reputation of really screwing people over. And one of my mates went through that experience too, and I'll get him on the podcast at some point so he can tell you guys what happened with his wonderful adventures in the UK and working for Games Workshop at that time. And this is like way back before I went. So I don't know. Some people have survived the GW, employment story or history, and they've got a story to tell at the end of it. And if so, that's awesome. Some people may have had a really wonderful experience with it. I certainly did in the studio, much more than the stores. Even though I miss my friends from the stores, but I had a great time with the people there. there were egos, definitely. There was massive ego clashes with some people, especially in the painting area as well, and it's all very, it's all very divisional. And some people just didn't get on with other people and that kind of thing. Like any workplace. So there was definitely, room for conflict there with people. I remember from an interview with, I think it was Andy Chambers, that one day he walked into the studio to see, it was Bill King and my old mate Wayne England, almost at blows, like I don't know what it was about, but I think Wayne England's Welsh, and I apologise if I got that wrong, but I probably did. Bill King's Scottish or something like that, and maybe it was some kind of, maybe that was related to their feud, I don't know, but they were really, really angry with each other at one point. Maybe Bill mistreated his dwarf miniatures, Wayne England's dwarf miniatures. He actually played them in the Orc and Goblin book. There's a battle report where Bill King uses Wayne England's dwarves in that battle report. Maybe it was over that. Who knows? Maybe he broke something or whatever, and Wayne took offence. Or when I saw Wayne, he had some miniatures on his shelf. I think some Goblin Wolf Riders and stuff like that. So he was a gamer too. I think Bill King was as well. Clearly, because he was playing games. I think in Man of War too. I think he, I may have got that wrong, but I think Man of War, Bill also played the games as well with the guys to design them. And that's my chime to say au revoir today, guys. So I'm going to leave you here with this progress on our, great Taurus. I hope you enjoyed this painting session with me, and that basically concludes my GW history. If I remember anything else about that time, and I'm going to get other people on here as well, I'm going to ask Dave Perry if he would like to be a interviewee on a future episode, because he can probably recall things that I can't recall. Back in the day, he's got a load of more stories about the studio and how it all went down, and I love all those stories. Listening to the guys talking about it from studio members, and I love all those kind of stories there. I could listen to those for hours. A lot more detailed, a lot more interesting than mine, I'm sure. So we'll see if Dave wants to do that at some point. I haven't spoken to him in person since leaving the studio, so it'd be nice just to catch up with him that way. Maybe this podcast is a good way of doing that. And of course, Dean, one of the guys I work with in the Oxford store, he's totally down for doing an interview at some point, so that'd be awesome as well. Love Dean, he's a great guy, and he's trying to have his first baby. Not him, but his wife or girlfriend or whatever. So I have to give him some fatherly, advice on raising children, what to look out for, what to expect out in the future when they're finally successful. So that'll be quite cool. I'm just adding some really thinned out glazes of this flat red in places when I want it to be more saturated with red here. So it's all happy days, guys, all happy days. I'm feeling a lot less stressed this week after a very stressful last week before my final uni assignment was handed in, and I'm just feeling more relaxed. Unfortunately, I've got to go to work, but hey, that's life. I've got to do it for the money. I could just sit here all day quite peacefully, painting away. But yeah, I'll have to send Georg an email today when I get to work, just say that I'm starting this and hopefully you're watching, because I haven't heard anything from him, so maybe he's going to watch this video today. But I know he's a busy guy too, you know, he's got a lot of things going on with his family and work and all that kind of thing, so hopefully he's liking what I'm doing with this, because he wasn't sure whether I was going to do like a traditional, you know, color scheme or do something a bit more different and varied. I know the Studio One has all this hair in like a really light beige color. I would have thought that would be better in black. So yeah, let me just check that again, but I'm pretty sure it's all in this like really yellowy color, beige, and I'm not really sure that's like a really good color to use. I prefer black against the red, and I think that looks a lot better. So we'll see. I'll check it when I get to work. I've got more time now to do stuff there. A little bit anyway. Pretty hectic schedule this week again, but yeah, I'll have more time to just check out on these photos anyway. See where we're at. So I'm just adding a little bit of a glaze here on the red, just to tone down that yellow and just to bring more warmth back into the reds again. And I've probably got to do a final highlight after. But I like doing that, you know, I like to, you know, build up the highlights, then tone it down a little bit, then build up a little bit of highlight again, and just sort of find that sort of, you know, just that right tone, that right hue of the colour that doesn't look too chalky. Otherwise, you know, when you're using yellows and that kind of thing, it can come across really chalky, especially with that beige as well, especially like whites and that kind of thing. So I didn't want it to be, because I think the Studio One, it's like really vibrant red, you know. And just in closing, I know a lot of people ask me for doing commissions and that kind of stuff. You know, I really appreciate everybody asking me to do things, but I cannot commit to anything at this stage. I just will not allow myself to do it. I want to get through all these commissions first, get them all out the door, back to their rightful owners, and then, you know, after that I want to break and paint my own stuff, and then, you know, maybe 2021 I can start opening up to doing commissions again for people, just small jobs, not big stuff, just small stuff, just like character models, banners, you know, like army standards, generals, that kind of stuff. I'm not doing any more big stuff anymore, guys, because I just can't. I just don't have the time. I just do not have the time to do it. But doing this kind of thing, perfect. You know, like these big, large model character models, like mounted models, all that kind of stuff. Yep. I'm definitely into doing like one piece kind of things. David sent me a photo yesterday of some kind of Empire standard bearer. So yeah, those kind of things I'm interested in doing. Army projects, I just think they'll just take it would just take too much time. You know, I think people can understand that it would just take so much time. You can see how much time I'm spending on doing these models. You know, it would just take me forever. And I'm, you know, thinking about it more and more. These days, you know, my time is so limited between work and other things, and my family. You know, I want to spend time with my family too. So I wish I had more time. If I was a lot younger, you know, I'd probably be more into doing it. But now I'm older, you know, I'm sort of looking over my shoulder all the time, looking at my own stuff, thinking, oh, when am I going to get to paint that, you know? But I know I need the money, and I've said to other guys, maybe it's just a financial thing that I need the cash, and you know, I have to take those projects on, and you know, they have to be things that I'm interested in doing. If I'm not interested in doing it, I just won't do it, regardless of wanting the money or not. I am selling off not my Warhammer stuff. I'm selling off other stuff now, in the process of getting rid of it all, just reducing the amount of stuff that I have here. And just concentrating everything on this on this revival, this this recollecting all the old classic models and armies and that kind of thing, and just this being my entire life of hobby from now until the day that I finally kick it. So that's going to be my aim. Like, buying Blood Bowl would be on my shopping list right now. Buying all the teams, buying, getting it on the channel. Necromunda would be another one that my mate's Jesse's got a copy of for me there. So at one stage I can buy that off him at some point maybe, or trade it for something. What else? All the Man of War fleets, I need to get all those. I want to really get into Man of War like heavily. So I've got a guy here in Japan who wants to do the videos with me, so, and maybe Justin too as well. So yeah, guys, I've got lots of big plans, lots of things I need to get done and want to get done, not just for myself, but for the channel, so I can share it with everybody. And that's, one of the big motivators for me. It's not such a selfish thing. It's more like I want to do this because, people really enjoy seeing all these kind of projects come to life. And then sharing that with you, and then sharing it with the guys I'm gaming with, and get them involved and motivated into doing things that are very similar. Maybe a campaign at some point in the future, like a global campaign, a local campaign, round robin tournament. I've been sort of tossing the idea around of that as well. Just one day, 1,000 points aside. 3 rounds or 4 rounds or something like that. I think that'd be quite a cool idea too. So yeah, a lot of things to get through, guys. But I really appreciate, and I really, really mean this from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate people getting in contact with me and reaching out and asking for different things. I want to help everybody, but I've just got to look at it, like my uni stuff too. I've got to look at that within a reasonable amount of time frame, what I can get done in the time that I have, and to be honest, I don't have much time, but I can only do my best. So hope you enjoyed this. I've enjoyed it. I'm looking at this now thinking, yeah, this looks pretty good actually. I'm sort of, I think those glazes did a lot to really enrich that red now. He looks like he's on fire. So yeah, when I get in the next video, I'm going to do just some little highlights here and there to finish off that red, and then we go straight into doing all the hooves and the horns and the fur and the eyes and the teeth and that big nose ring, and then the base, and then that's it. Then we can do the rider, and he's a done, and then we can send him off to my old mate in Austria, so he can put on the shelf with the dwarves he's got there. All right, guys, a bit of a longer one for you today, so lucky you, hey? And look forward to seeing you in the next one. Okay, guys, take care. See you.